Ready for a deep dive. This time we're taking on the monk who sold his Ferrari. Think you can handle those life lessons?
This isn't just some self-help book, though. It's the story of Julian Mantle. Imagine a hotshot lawyer, the kind with everything money can buy.
Yeah, but then what? What makes this guy ditch the fancy suits and the courtroom drama?
Picture this. He's in the middle of a trial, high-pressure situation, and boom, he has a heart attack. Right there in the courtroom.
Talk about a wake-up call. You'd think about making some serious life changes after that, right?
That's just what he does. He drops everything, sells all his possessions, and takes off on a journey to find himself. Ends up with the sages of Savannah and the Himalayas.
Okay, so we're talking about secluded monks, ancient wisdom, all that. But this isn't your typical find yourself on a mountaintop story.
No, not at all. These sages, they have a way of making their wisdom incredibly practical. Think of it like this. They tell Julian a fable about a garden, a sumo wrestler, and a stopwatch.
Now, that's a combination you don't hear every day. What's the garden got to do with anything?
It's all about your mindset, you see. The garden represents your mind. And just like a garden, you have to tend to it. You wouldn't let your garden be overrun with weeds, right? Well, the sages say negative thoughts are like those weeds.
So it's not enough to just think positive thoughts every now and then. You've got to actively get rid of the negative ones too, like pulling weeds. Makes sense.
Right. It takes effort to cultivate a healthy mind, just like it takes effort to cultivate a beautiful garden. And that's where the sumo wrestler comes in. He makes this interesting discovery in the garden.
Hold on, a sumo wrestler in a garden. This is where I need a visual. And what about the stopwatch? Where does that fit into all of this?
I know it sounds strange, but that's the beauty of these fables. They stick with you. And the message here is about control. The sumo wrestler learns he can't control everything that happens to him, but
he can control how he reacts to it. Okay, starting to see where this is going.
Exactly. And the sages, they were big on this idea of opposition thinking. Basically, consciously swapping out those negative thoughts for positive ones.
Okay, so let's say you're worried about messing up a presentation at work. Instead of letting your mind go crazy with all the what-ifs,
you focus on your past successes, visualize yourself nailing the presentation, and boom, you're changing the narrative in your mind.
Like switching the channel on your mental TV. I like it. But how do you actually train your brain to do that?
Well, one technique the sages used was visualization. Every morning, they'd go to this tranquil lake and picture their goals, their desires, as vividly as possible.
It's almost like they're drawing those desires into their lives.
Exactly. The lake was a powerful reminder for them. A reminder that clearly picturing your goals is the first step to achieving them. Whether it's acing that presentation or being more patient with your family.
It makes you want to find a quiet lake to do some visualizing of your own, right?
It really does. But mastering your mind was only part of the equation for the sages. They also believed in finding your dharma.
Dharma. Now, there's a word you don't hear every day. What does that even mean?
It's about uncovering your true calling in life, that thing that lights you up, that gives you a sense of purpose, that goes beyond just, making money or achieving status.
Sounds a bit like Julian, actually. He had all the material success in the world, but it clearly wasn't fulfilling him.
Precisely. He had to step away from it all to realize that he'd been neglecting his true passion, which was art. And that's the thing about Dharma. It's not always what we think it's going to be. Sometimes it takes a bit of soul-searching to uncover it.
And sometimes it takes a major life crisis to make you realize what truly matters. But once you do figure out your Dharma, what then? How do you actually start living it?
Well, that's where this idea of Kaizen comes in.
Kaizen. Sounds a bit intimidating, doesn't it? Like some ancient martial art or something?
Not at all. It's actually a very empowering concept. Kaizen is all about continuous self-improvement. Small, consistent steps day after day.
Okay, so not as intimidating as I thought.
Yeah.
But how do you make sure those small steps actually lead somewhere?
Think of it like this. The sages used to compare Kaizen to a cable made of many thin wires. On their own, the wires are pretty fragile, right? But woven together,
they create something incredibly strong. Got it. So it's about the cumulative effect of all those small efforts.
You got it. And the sages, they lived by this principle. They believed that self-mastery was the foundation for everything else.
Because if you can't master yourself, you can't really master anything else, right?
Exactly. And they had these 10 rituals, almost like daily practices, to help cultivate that self-mastery.
10 rituals. Okay, now you're speaking my language. Let's hear it. What's ritual number 1?
Ritual number 1 is the ritual of solitude. Now, this doesn't mean you have to go live in a cave or anything.
Although after this past year, A little solitude might not sound so bad.
Right. But the sages believe that even carving out a little bit of time each day for quiet reflection could be incredibly restorative.
Like hitting the reset button on your mind. I like that. What's next?
The second ritual is early awakening. They were all about rising with the sun, aligning yourself with the natural rhythms of the day.
Not for the night owls among us. But I can see how starting your day with intention could set a different tone.
Exactly. And speaking of starting your day right, the third ritual is the ritual of physicality.
So exercise. I'm guessing we're not talking about intense gym sessions here. What kind of physical activity did the sages practice?
You're right. It wasn't about pushing yourself to the limit. They believed that even gentle exercise like yoga or walking
could have a big impact on your energy and well-being. It's all connected, right? Mind-body connection.
Precisely. Now, ritual number 4 might surprise you. It's the ritual of breathing.
Breathing. But we all breathe, don't we? What's so special about that?
You'd be amazed at the power of conscious breathing. The sages had specific techniques they used to calm their minds, boost their energy, even enhance their focus.
Okay, I'll admit, I often take breathing for granted. It's like, just something your body does automatically. But I'm willing to bet there's more to it than I realize.
There definitely is. And that leads us to the 5th ritual, the ritual of live nourishment.
Live nourishment. Okay, now I'm picturing some pretty interesting meals.
Yeah.
What did these sages eat?
They were big on what they called live foods. Fresh fruits and vegetables, whole grains, that sort of thing.
A very plant-based diet. Not too surprising for a group of monks.
You're right. But they weren't rigid about it. They believed that even incorporating more of these live foods into your diet could make a difference.
Small changes, big impact. I like it. What about the next ritual? What wisdom did they try to nourish themselves with?
That would be the 6th ritual, the ritual of abundant knowledge. They were all about being lifelong learners. Reading, especially, played a big role in their lives.
Oh, I knew I liked these sages. What kind of books were they into? Give me the good stuff.
They loved biographies, philosophical works, anything that could offer different perspectives and insights. They saw reading as a way to learn from the experiences of others.
Like a fast track to wisdom. I'm all for that. Okay, so that's solitude, early rising, physical activity, breathing, diet, and knowledge. What about the last 4?
The 7th is all about self-reflection. The sages called it the ritual of personal reflection. They believed in taking time each day to examine your thoughts and actions.
So like a daily check-in with yourself, making sure you're on track.
Exactly. They'd even recommend keeping a journal to reflect on your experiences and identify areas for growth. It's about becoming more self-aware, which can be pretty uncomfortable at times.
No pain, no gain, right?
Yeah.
What about the 8th ritual? What other wisdom did they want to impart?
The 8th ritual is a bit unexpected. It's the ritual of music.
Now that's something I can get behind. I love a good ritual that involves music.
Me too. The sages believed that music had this incredible power to uplift the spirit, to connect us to something larger than ourselves.
There's definitely something about music that just seems to speak to the soul, isn't there? What are the last 2 rituals? What are they all about?
Well, we've already touched on the 9th one. It's early awakening, which emphasizes aligning with the natural rhythms of the day.
Right, no hitting the snooze button. What about the 10th and final ritual? What pearl of wisdom did they save for last?
The 10th is the ritual of congruency.
Congruency. That one sounds intriguing. Break it down for me.
It's about making sure your actions align with your values and beliefs.
Walking the talk, basically. I like it. So we've covered a lot of ground here. Rituals, fables, ancient wisdom, but this is just the tip of the iceberg, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. We haven't even touched on some of their most intriguing concepts, like the ancient rule of 20.
The ancient rule of 20. Now you've got my attention. Tell me more.
Well, it's all about productivity and focus. The sages believe that 80% of the results you achieve in life actually come from just 20% of your actions.
Whoa, that's pretty powerful. So it's about identifying those high-impact actions and really honing in on them. But how do you know which actions are the 20%ers?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The sages had a few ideas about that. They were all about eliminating distractions.
And focusing your energy where it really matters. No multitasking for these monks.
It's amazing to think that all this wisdom is tucked away in a book about a monk who sells his fancy car.
It's a reminder that sometimes the simplest stories hold the most profound truths. And speaking of stories, the sages were masters of using them to illustrate their teachings. One that stands out is the story of Peter and the magic thread.
Oh, I love a good story. Lay it on me.
Peter was this guy, the good guy, but he had this habit of always looking ahead, never really present in the moment.
Always chasing the next thing sounds exhausting.
You said it. One day he meets this old woman who gives him this gift, a ball of golden thread. And this thread, it has the power to control time.
Wait, what? Control time? How does that even work? By pulling on the thread, Peter could make hours, days, even years fly by in an instant.
Talk about a dangerous gift. What does he do with it?
Well, at first he can't believe his luck. He uses the magic thread to skip past anything boring or awkward. School, chores, you name it. He fast forwards right through it all. He can't believe his luck. He uses the magic thread to skip past anything boring or awkward. School, chores, you name it. He fast forwards right through it all.
I can see the appeal, but that sounds like a recipe for a whole lot of regret later on. Did he ever slow down and smell the roses, so to speak?
Not a chance. Peter was always so focused on getting to the next thing that he missed the beauty of the present moment entirely. Years flew by in the blink of an eye. He rushed through relationships, barely registering milestones, never pausing to learn from his experiences.
It's heartbreaking, really. He had this incredible gift, but ended up wasting it because he was always living in the future. It makes you wonder what he could have accomplished if he'd been more present.
It's a poignant reminder for all of us, isn't it? We can get so caught up in chasing achievements, checking off items on our to-do lists, that we forget to actually live our lives.
It's like that Ferris Bueller quote. Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Exactly. And the sages knew this instinctively. They emphasized the importance of savoring each experience, good or bad, as an opportunity for growth and learning.
They probably wouldn't have been big fans of social media then. So much of it seems designed to make us envy the curated highlight reels of other people's lives.
You've hit on a crucial point. The sages were all about focusing on what you can control: your thoughts, your actions, your responses to the world around you. They taught that true contentment comes from within, not from external validation or comparison.
That's easier said than done in today's world, though, right? How can we cultivate that kind of inner peace when we're bombarded with messages about what we should be doing, who we should be like?
You're right, it takes effort and awareness. That's why the sages place so much emphasis on practices like mindfulness and meditation. They believe these techniques could help quiet the mental chatter and bring us back to the present moment.
So it's about creating space for stillness and reflection in our otherwise chaotic lives. Did they have any specific techniques for this?
They did. One practice they emphasized was called the Heart of the Rose meditation.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How does that work?
It's actually quite simple. You find a comfortable position, close your eyes, and take a few deep breaths. Then you visualize your heart as a rosebud, tightly closed. As you inhale, imagine the warmth of the sun gently coaxing the petals open. As you exhale, let go of any tension or negativity.
That's a beautiful image. I can see how that would be a powerful way to cultivate a sense of inner peace and gratitude.
The sages believed that regularly connecting with your heart in this way could help you tap into a deep well of wisdom and compassion.
It sounds like a practice anyone could benefit from, regardless of their background or beliefs. Did the sages have any other advice for cultivating presence and gratitude in daily life?
They were big proponents of gratitude journaling. Taking a few minutes each day to write down things you're thankful for can have a profound impact on your outlook.
I can see how that would shift your perspective, making you more aware of the good things in your life, even when things are tough.
Yeah.
It's about training your brain to focus on the positive, isn't it?
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Start by listing 3 things, big or small, that you're grateful for. It could be anything from a warm cup of coffee in the morning to the support of a loved one.
Simple, yet powerful. I like it. But let's get back to our friend Peter and his magic thread. We left him feeling pretty miserable after he'd fast-forwarded through life. Did he ever find redemption?
He did, in a way. Remember how I mentioned that he begged the old woman to turn back time?
Yes, and she gave him that harsh but necessary wake-up call.
Oh, right. He was devastated at first, but eventually he came to understand the wisdom in her words. He realized that dwelling on the past wouldn't change anything. He had to find a way to make peace with his choices and appreciate the time he had left.
It's a powerful reminder that we can't change the past, but we can choose how we move forward. It's about learning from our mistakes and using those experiences to create a better future.
Precisely. And that realization was Peter's turning point. He dedicated the rest of his days to helping others appreciate the preciousness of time. He became known for his generosity, his wisdom, and his ability to help people find joy in the present moment.
It's almost as if by losing everything, he discovered what truly mattered in life.
It's a common theme in these types of stories, isn't it? Sometimes it takes a major shakeup to make us reevaluate our priorities and align our lives with our values.
It's like that saying, sometimes you have to lose yourself to find yourself.
Exactly. And that brings us back to Julian and his journey with the sages of Savannah. Remember, he had that dramatic wake-up call with his heart attack. It forced him to confront the emptiness of his success-driven life and embark on a quest for something more meaningful.
And that quest led him to this incredible group of monks who taught him the secrets to living a truly fulfilling life.
The sages were masters of storytelling. They used fables and parables to illustrate their teachings in a way that was both entertaining and thought-provoking.
Like the story of Peter and the magic thread, which reminded us not to take time for granted. Do you have any other stories up your sleeve that might help our listener on their journey? I'm ready for more wisdom.
I do. This one is about a giant who lived in a beautiful castle.
That story really makes you think about the choices we make, doesn't it? And how even small acts of kindness can have a lasting impact.
It's a powerful reminder that true happiness often lies in giving, in connecting with others, in making a difference in the world.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the monk who sold his Ferrari, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from Julian's journey? What's that nugget of wisdom they can carry with them?
For me, it's the idea that we all have the power to create a more fulfilling life for ourselves. It starts with that decision, that commitment to personal growth.
It's like we've been given this treasure map, and now it's up to us to go out and discover the riches for ourselves.
I love that analogy. And remember, the path to a fulfilling life isn't always easy, There will be challenges, there will be setbacks, moments when you question everything.
But maybe those challenges, those setbacks, they're actually opportunities in disguise.
Exactly. It's all about perspective, isn't it? And remember, you don't have to go it alone.
Right. The sages, they weren't about isolating yourself from the world. They believed in the power of community, of surrounding yourself with people who inspire you, support you.
Find those people in your life, the ones who lift you up, who challenge you to grow, and be that person for someone else.
Because ultimately, it's about recognizing that we're all in this together, right?
We are. And the more we can support each other, learn from each other, the brighter our collective future will be.
That's a beautiful thought to end on. So to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the monk who sold his Ferrari. Remember, the power to change your world lies within you.
Keep asking those big questions. Keep exploring those ancient truths and keep shining your light.